Managing reproduction is often the most time-consuming and frustrating job on a dairy operation. Few would argue of its importance in herd management, yet on many dairies it doesn't get the attention it should. And in many more, reproductive efficiency hasn't achieved the level of success it could. One reason is that no dairyman has ever written a check for inefficient reproduction. It's not an expense item on the financial statement, but it can be a major factor in bottom-line profits. For many dairy managers, the most convincing reminder of the importance of reproductive management is when they're forced to cull a top cow because she's been in milk for more than 200 days and still isn't pregnant. It's on such occasions that dairymen find themselves searching for a better way to manage herd reproduction. But how do you take variables so unscientific as heat detection and unpredictable as conception rate and organize them into a program that will yield a dependable pregnancy rate? The industry has been searching for that answer for years. Dr. Austin Belschner, Technical Services Consultant for Dairy Products with the Upjohn Company, explains.
Since prostaglandin products such as Lutolized sterile solution were approved by FDA in the early 1980s, several managed breeding programs have been developed to take advantage of the drug's estrus-inducing ability. There was the control breeding program and the Monday morning program. Each enhanced reproductive performance, but more significantly, with each program we learned more about the most beneficial ways to use Lutolized in a dairy reproductive management program. The latest such program, and most beneficial to date, is targeted breeding. The targeted breeding program was developed by the Upjohn Company in 1993. It is a program designed to improve pregnancy rate, or how fast the herd is becoming pregnant. Since its introduction, many dairymen with both large and small operations have found targeted breeding to be easily adapted, cost-effective, and performance-enhancing for their dairy operations.
The concept of pregnancy rate is an important one. It's what makes targeted breeding different from other breeding programs. Pregnancy rate is calculated by first determining a herd's heat detection rate by taking the number of animals observed in estrus over a 21-day period and dividing that by the total number of animals expected to be in estrus. Then the herd's conception rate is calculated by taking the number of animals diagnosed pregnant over a 21-day period and dividing that by the number of animals inseminated. Then the heat detection rate is multiplied by the conception rate to arrive at the pregnancy rate. The two targets of targeted breeding are to inseminate all cows during the first 21 days after breeding starts and to have at least 80% of the herd pregnant by 120 to 135 days in milk. The Upjohn Company has prepared a brochure that explains the program in detail, but here are the basic steps. Step 1 is to determine a voluntary waiting period until cows will be rebred. This can be from 45 to 60 days after freshening and should be based on individual herd factors such as milk production, nutrition, body condition scores, and general management. Research shows that waiting longer than 60 days does not increase conception rate significantly. The second step is to make up a list of cows and schedule their setup shot of Lutolized sterile solution. Most dairy management computer programs can generate this list and schedule. Step 3 is the setup shot. Starting 17 days before the end of the voluntary waiting period, cows are injected with their setup shot of Lutolized on a set day of the week. No cows are bred following the setup shot, even if they are observed showing signs of standing heat. The purpose of the setup shot is to help more cows respond at the same time when the next shot of Lutolized is given. It also will produce more fertile heats. Every reproductively healthy cow has roughly a 70% chance of coming into estrus 1 to 7 days following a Lutolized injection. This is because she was either at the right stage of the estrus cycle to respond to prostaglandin or was coming into estrus on her own. The key is to follow up with a second injection 14 days later, to which all of the cows in the group should respond. That's step 4. This first breeding shot of Lutolized is given on the same day of the week, 2 weeks after the setup shot. All cycling cows are expected to come into heat within 2 to 5 days after the first breeding injection. Step 5 is heat detection, which is a lot easier and more efficient because you need only observe a group of cows on days 2, 3, 4, and 5 after the breeding injection. It may help to use chalking, Kmar patches, or other heat detection aids on all cows receiving the breeding shot. The next step, number 6, is to inseminate cows on observed standing heat or rubbed off chalk. At this stage, the goal is to observe positive heat signs in at least 70% of the injected cows. Step 7 is a second breeding shot of Lutelice for those cows not yet found in estrus and inseminated. Again, this second breeding shot is given 14 days after the first. This 14-day injection interval affords the most reliable use of Lutelice, both in terms of effectiveness and convenience. Shots are given on the same day of the week, every other week, so a regular routine is established. More important, Lutelice given 14 days apart yields the highest expression of estrus among treated cows. Step 8 is to inseminate cows that receive the second breeding shot upon detection of positive heat signs. Cows not detected in heat following the second breeding shot should be appointment bred at approximately 80 hours. It is best to continue to observe these cows after insemination for signs of estrus and rebreed them if they are observed in heat. Appointment breeding will result in all cows being inseminated by 21 days after the voluntary waiting period, creating a 100% heat detection rate. That achieves the first target of the targeted breeding program. Let's pause for a moment and talk about appointment breeding. This is an essential component of the program for many reasons. If the program is working well and heat detection is good, less than 20% of cows will need to be appointment bred. The results of those appointment breedings provide an important diagnostic tool. If less than 25% of appointment bred cows conceive, the herd's nutrition may need improvement. If more than 25% become pregnant, the herd's heat detection probably could be improved. Step 9 comes about 5 weeks after insemination, when cows are palpated to detect open cows. Because all eligible cows are inseminated, the percentage of pregnant cows may seem disappointingly low. This does not mean the program is not working. The difference is that you are checking all cows versus a few selected ones as before. And even a 30 to 40% conception rate at a single open cow check is much better than most herds are currently achieving. By using your pregnancy rate formula, a 100% heat detection rate multiplied by a 35% conception rate would yield a pregnancy rate of 35%, which is very good, especially when compared to the current national average pregnancy rate, which is 15 to 20%. The final step is to restart the program. Open cows detected at palpation or detected in heat are returned to the next injection group. Does targeted breeding really work? Let's listen to some dairymen who have tried it. Land Hope Dairy is a 425 cow operation near Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. It's managed by Sam Schatzberger.
When we started the targeted breeding program, the poor reproductive efficiency that we had was affecting practically every part of our operation. We had fewer calves being born, which meant that we had fewer heifers entering the herd as replacements. Production was lower because cows were later in lactation. Feed costs were higher with lower pounds per cow per day. That increased our cost per hundredweight. Even things like udder health and feet and legs were getting to be more of a problem because we just didn't have the luxury of shipping those cows out. Basically, it worked out that if a cow was pregnant, she stayed, and if she wasn't, she left. We used to have palpations every week, and we'd had the vets checking 60 or 70 cows every week, and we really didn't get a lot of information out of that. What we usually found out was the cow went through a heat and we missed her. Now with the targeted breeding program, we're able to check our cows every other week with the vet, and we're checking less than half the cows now than we did before. So we get good information when we check the cows, and it takes a lot less effort. After we'd been on the targeted breeding program for a while, we went back and reevaluated the costs of the reproductive efficiency that we'd gained, and we found that we'd actually reduced the costs of our reproductive program, and that includes the cost of the veterinarian, the cost of the Lutelice, the cost of the semen, And we were breeding fewer cows, getting them pregnant sooner. We were spending a lot less time with the veterinarians. So we were not only spending less time with the veterinarians, but we were able to focus our efforts a little more on other problems in the herd. The improvements that we've seen as a result of the targeted breeding program have had a significant positive impact on our bottom line.
Dwight Hasselquist operates North Bay Holsteins, a 100-cow dairy farm near Center City, Minnesota. He credits targeted breeding for improving almost every performance aspect of his expanding herd.
Shortly after we expanded, we realized that we were not real happy with our breeding efficiency, and we needed to do something. So we consulted with our veterinarians on somehow we could try and improve that. And they suggested the targeted breeding program to us. We talked about it, we thought about it, and we decided to put the herd on it. Since being on the targeted breeding program for about 18 months, our calving interval has dropped about 1.5 months. Our days to first breeding have dropped by approximately 20 days, and our rolling herd average has increased by about 3,000 pounds. One of the big advantages to the targeted breeding program, especially for an operation like mine, which we do not have a lot of extra labor, is it cuts down the amount of labor in the breeding program. You need to concentrate your heat detection on just a couple of days out of a 2-week period where you really watch the cows for heat, and you're going to catch the vast majority of them, and then the rest of the other 12 days out of the 2 weeks period, you don't need to be near as concerned about watching cows for heat. As young dairy operators, we know that to survive we will need to continue to grow. The targeted breeding program will help us to do that in 3 ways. 1, by helping us to be more profitable. 2, by allowing us to cull the kind of cows that we want to cull. And 3, by allowing us to have more calves born each year just because our breeding efficiency is much better.
The W.C. Werhoeven Dairy is a 700-cow operation located in Ontario, California. John Van Dunk, herd manager, began following the targeted breeding program in 1993.
Sometime earlier, I had read something about the limited usefulness of fresh cow palpating, so I quit doing that and used the money I saved in vet expense to buy the little eyes, and I actually had some money left over. Over time, I found that the targeted breeding program works pretty much the way they said it would. I'm getting awfully close to the 80% pregnant at 120 to 135 days, and that in spite of heat and flies, and we even had flooded corrals this past winter. The thing I like most about the program is that it reduces the number of places I have to look to solve reproductive problems. When I know that I'm getting all the cows inseminated within 21 days after the end of the voluntary waiting period, and I'm still not getting the results I want, I can look for possible causes elsewhere, such as nutrition or body condition or even breeding technique. Before targeted breeding, my solution to breeding problems often was the cleanup bull. Today there are no bulls at our dairy, and I can show you at least 3 reasons why I'm very happy about that. Rebecca, Saskia, and Jennifer.
Did you hear all those benefits these dairymen attribute to their targeted breeding programs? They all mentioned fewer days open. With more than half of a cow's return over feed costs coming in the first 100 days in milk, open days can become a drain on the herd's profitability. Sam noted more days at peak lactation. More milk means more profit. All 3 dairymen also pointed out that they can now cull cows for the right reasons, such as chronic mastitis or low production, rather than failure to become pregnant quickly enough. Increased pregnancy rate is something all 3 dairymen have experienced from targeted breeding. More calves mean fewer purchased replacements for both Sam and Dwight. Easier heat detection is one of the most often cited benefits. Because the cows are grouped for breeding, only that group is observed, and only during a defined period. Better use of labor is a side benefit of easier heat detection and of the set schedule for injections and veterinarian visits. More productive use of the veterinarian's time was credited as saving both time and money. And John noted the advantage of not having to keep a cleanup bull around. Could any of these advantages from a targeted breeding program benefit your dairy operation? Think about it and discuss it with your veterinarian. And be sure to ask for a copy of this brochure, which covers the 10-step program in detail. More calves, more milk in the tank, and more money in the bank could be the result of using targeted breeding in your herd. That's the best step you can take to get your herd's reproductive efficiency on target.